So on the LCD digitizer repair, this is a repair that you'll want to do if your LCD obviously is broken, if you've dropped it and cracked the LCD, or the glass. Maybe the digitizer touch is unresponsive. Couple of things could cause you to want to repair this, but we'll show you how to repair it and get you back good as new. So with the board out, you'll want to take out the speaker flex cable and the front facing camera. If you need to see these in detail, you can watch those repairs themselves. I'm just going to take these out kind of quickly because these are covered in another repair. So you set that aside. Take this piece out. Pop that guy out. Okay. Now, the other thing you'll want to be careful of is this cable down here. When you're heating the digitizer up, there's adhesive that runs all along the frame, down here, down the bottom, and up. And around your navigation buttons down here is your navigation cable. There's adhesive that sits on your navigation cable and underneath of this glass. If you pry up on this down here before it's ready, you'll either tear this part of the sensor or you'll tear this over here, and you'll end up having to replace this cable as well. So you want to be extremely careful when heating this off. And you almost do it last. I start at the top up here and just kind of work my way down. And then you get down to the bottom and do this last, just so I can see underneath when I'm lifting it up, and you'll see what I'm talking about. I'll show you when we're in the process, but you'll be able to see this cable as you're lifting this entire unit up. The other thing is if you go too quickly or apply too much pressure as you're heating this up and lifting it off, you'll end up either breaking the LCD or you'll break the digitizer. So you want to be careful of that as well. Now, it may take you longer if your glass is broken. Just remember, again, be careful. I put a glove on. If it's broken, more than likely you'll want to put a glove and eye protection, because little pieces of glass can break off and fly all over the place, and it hurts when it gets in your eyes, and I've done that before. So wear eye protection and have your glove starting at the top, and we're going to heat it downward. So here we go. Get my glove. And if you have a heat gun, you can use it. If you have a hair dryer, you can use that as well. It may take you a little while longer if you have a hair dryer, but just take your time, kind of move down. This is just going to show you how to do it. I'll heat mainly the backup because in addition to all the adhesive on the perimeter of the phone, there's adhesive that runs kind of in a horseshoe pattern that holds the LCD onto the housing. So you want to make sure that's heated off as well, and you can you kind of work the back of it, work the front a little bit, and then get the separation and just slowly move your way down. So we'll start heating the LCD digitizer off. Now, one thing, I know that they sell these separate online, or you can buy the glass by itself online, but it's nearly impossible to separate the glass and the LCD from each other. If you do manage to separate them, more than likely you may damage the LCD when cleaning it, trying to get them back together. I mean, there's a whole number of things that can happen. And so what I recommend is just replacing the unit altogether. I know it's more expensive, but it's just less hassle and less headache for you if you just separate them or try to repair them all as one piece. Now, when heating it up, I usually keep the heat gun 6 to 8 inches away. You just want kind of a slow, steady heat, you don't want to shock it at once because you'll end up either damaging, you can burn the housing, you can burn different parts of the phone. So I just kind of heat it up slowly and just take my time with it. Kind of heat the edges because, again, you have all this adhesive on the edges, and if you heat the edges up, it'll make it easier to separate the... Okay, so I get my guitar pick, start at the top, and just kind of work my way on the side. You'll notice kind of all the glue on the side, and that's all the adhesive from the frame. So you kind of work that on the side. If you're having trouble, I'll get in here with a with my flathead, the really fine tip flathead screwdriver. Kind of get in one of these sides over here and just kind of wiggle a little bit, not too much pressure, because if you force it, you will break your LCD. But you can just give it some pressure. If that doesn't work, you can try it, maybe over here somewhere, but just get in the back side of this and get a little bit of separation on that, which will help you get underneath the LCD to then be able to get the pick under the LCD, because you don't want to gouge in between the LCD and the digitizer, the glass. You want to get in between and get underneath so you can actually lift the whole unit up. So again, it may take you, several times heating it up, getting a little separation, heating it up, getting a little separation. But again, you'll want to definitely take your time. Kind of work all around, every angle. I mean, I've done it to where it's taken me 5 or 6 different cycles to heat it up, get a little bit of separation, then I have to heat it up again, a little more separation, heat it up. And so it's, it can be kind of tedious and cumbersome, but it definitely helps when you take your time and you're not in a hurry. So let's try that again. So I have the one in there, it's kind of gotten to a certain point, and I'll just use this, kind of get in on this side and use it. Okay, so let's see here. Now when you're lifting up, remember that you have your LCD cable, and you don't want to damage that when you're lifting it up through the hole. So as you lift it, you can notice at the bottom you see the glue that's separating down there. Well, when you lift it a little more, you'll be able to start to see that cable. See that cable down there? And that is your navigation cable right there. So that cable, if you lift up too much, you'll damage either one of the sides of it. And that's what I'm talking about. So you can get something flat. Get in there, being careful not to damage the cable. And if you need to, reheat it up down there. If it's not coming apart as easy as you'd like it, give it maybe another couple seconds. Just heating that up and making sure you protect the cable. You don't want it to tear, because then again, like I said, you'll have to replace that as well. So we'll try that, see how that goes. And if you've done it right, then you should be able to lift up and keep all of that intact. Okay. Now, I have adhesive on the back of the LCD digitizer. You may have adhesive on the housing, and I'll show you what that looks like. The adhesive on the housing is a black, kind of a thick, sticky, mess. This is what you're separating from around the frame, from around the navigation keys, from all that stuff. So you absolutely want to take your time making sure that you get this off and not damaging any of these cables. You're not damaging this down here, and make sure you protect the actual housing. Now, once you get all of the adhesive off, and I recommend getting all of it off because you'd want to apply new adhesive. You don't want to have your old adhesive with maybe bits of glass, even a little shard of glass. If you put the new LCD on it and you press it together, you can actually end up breaking the new part, because these LCDs and digitizers are so thin that any little thing can actually damage it. Even though it's not a big piece, any little obstruction on it will break it and damage it. So, I mean, you want to just kind of go along, cleaning the board up. You can just scrape it, but you want to get everything off of this frame all the way around. So all the glue, there will be glass, especially if the LCD is broken, you will have glass all around it. And once you get all the big pieces off, again, you'll want to just triple check to make sure that all the little pieces are off, off the frame, the housing. And so you kind of inspect it all. You get all this off as well. I mean, just go around the whole phone and get it to where it's basically looks like a brand new frame, where there's nothing on it. You can kind of use your finger if you want, but making sure that all the pieces nice and clean. The other thing you'll want to make sure that you have on is your speaker as the dust cover, because if that was removed with the old glass, you'll want to put that on, because when you go to put the new LCD on, when you go to put your new piece on, which is what we have here, you're gonna have this big hole, and that's what it's basically going to look like on the phone itself. So as long as you have that dust cover right there, when you go to put it together, it's going to fill in nicely. The other thing that you want to make sure you get, and I'll show you here on the close-up, is you will want the right revision number. There's a little number right here that says REV, and then it's going to have either 6.0, 6.1, or 6.2. There are 3 different versions of this unit, of this digitizer glass unit. We'll go back to the main shot. If you get the wrong part, everything will fit 100%. It'll fit perfectly. The screen may even come on. You'll be able to see your picture. It'll be great. And then when you go to actually use your digitizer, the touch, when you go to slide it or you put your code in, your pattern in, it won't respond. And the reason for that is that revision number. That revision number is for your digitizer. And if you get the wrong one, like I said, it won't work. So make sure that if it says 6.1, you get the right 6.1 part. Because I've done that before, where I've ordered a part before I actually knew that. I ordered the part and replaced it, spent all the time making sure everything was perfect, and I went to use it and it didn't work. And so anyways, make sure that you get the right revision number, because that's a big thing that Samsung does, is they'll change the revisions on the parts, and it may fit perfectly, but it doesn't work at all. So just keep that in mind. So there's your old part. This too, around here, this is an adhesive for your old LCD, and you will want to remove this as well. So in addition to the frame or the edge, the perimeter of your housing, you'll want to remove this whole old adhesive. And it's better just to replace all the adhesives because you figure with wear and tear over time, and then you're actually heating them up to get them off, and it's just better to start over with brand new adhesive so your screen doesn't come up or nothing happens to it. You want to keep it as clean as possible. So this phone, you can order an adhesive online. You can get an adhesive, probably eBay, I'm sure has them. My supplier, I get these from them, but they should be available on eBay. It's a pretty nice setup. You just peel it off and you're going to line it up, match it up, make sure it all fits right, and then put it on the new part. So again, first make sure that everything's 100% clean, that everything's off. Once you get it all clean and off and it's all good to go, then we'll apply the new adhesive and be on the home stretch. So there's two sides on this. There's obviously the back side and the front side. So what I'll do is I'll take the adhesive off the back side, leave the adhesive on the front side. So there's that. So now the backing is off, and I'll just kind of hold it and with the dust cover on, just kind of line it up right on that, and I'll make sure that the camera, front-facing camera hole lines up as well. And if that lines up and the dust cover lines up, then everything else should fit into place. So I'll show you that right there. So that's nice and lined up. You have the sensor holes right there, so that's good. Your dust cover looks good. And then just making sure that all the edges on this going up are nice, and on this side as well, that this side is nice. And then go down, adhere the bottom. Now that should be good. So now we're ready to peel that off. Just make sure you may want to give it a once over. So now that's all peeled off. You have your new adhesive on. You're good to go. So the last thing to do is to prep your new digitizer. Before you put this on, definitely inspect it to make sure that there's no cracks or damages to the part itself. But once you see that everything looks good with that, you'll take any protective coverings off the back. So if the sensor holes or the camera hole have a piece of something over it, you'll peel that off. Usually this is an adhesive and it'll have a backing. You peel that off, peel the rest of the adhesive off. Make sure everything's good, and make sure your revision number is the same as the one you had before. So once you have that, what I'll do is I'll start with the LCD plug. I'll put it through the LCD slot and then line the dust cover up with the dust cover on top. And if all that lines up, then we should be good. So we'll put that in, kind of slide that in place. And then before I adhere anything down, I'll just line that dust cover up. Make sure the edge, I'll just check the edge and make sure that's lined up and that the bottom is lined up. And if those two things are lined up, you just kind of get it in place. Peel that back, make sure everything's good. And then you'll want to adhere it all down. Give it a press, but be very careful. Just press along the edge. You don't want to press anywhere in the center of the LCD, because if you put too much pressure, you'll break it. So if you press along the edge and make sure that's all good, then you should be good to go. And again, put it in and test it, but that's how you replace the LCD digitizer.